get a response from the public so they can roll out the solutions that they already have in place. The literal terminology is called problem, reaction, solution. So there's a particular policy that they want to pass. So, and then a problem presents itself. They use the media to gear people to a particular reaction and then offer the solution, which is the original policy that they want to pass. 9/11 and the Patriot Act, best example. So my idea and what I'm trying to do is outpace their reaction with community-based change, with literally getting people to do something, to show them this is a response. So that way they don't cry out for the National Guard. So they don't cry out for the military in our streets. And that, not to say that independent media, to point back to that conversation earlier, is doing this because they're nefarious. Like, I don't think that that's the reason. I think that they are as scared as we are. And we, as the viewers and consumers of their content, have to show them what a solution looks like that is not the reaction based solution that they're trying to get us to. So if we, as a community of people that are intelligent and thinking, can outpace the reaction of the government, because it is a slow roll, we can evolve out of this as a civilization to whatever ends you believe. I'm a municipalist. I'm going to build power at my local level the best I can. Other people may have different ideas and different concepts. Put them on the table. Call your city and say, hey, have we thought about this? It might save some lives. So we have to beat their reaction. And the thing that I want to do, and I wish Susie was here because she would talk about this way better than me, Freeing Julian Assange Part 3. In there, it specifically outlines the matrix, the establishment, the deep state, the global capitalist complex, whatever you refer to this thing that is assaulting our society right now. They move slow. She just showed you how it's taken them almost a decade to put these policies in place. It's not going to take us a decade to grow food. It's not going to take us a decade to get a municipal infrastructure set up that is free from larger existing government regulations. It just takes you being that one awkward person in your community saying, have you thought about this? And then when they say no, you say, well, you know, it would be really cool if we could try to figure out how to do this. Because ultimately, if we, as thinking people, as the content creators, as the consumers of content that know what is actually going on, in a sense, because none of us actually know what the fuck is happening, can alter the reaction of the citizens, not of the government, but of the citizens, we can keep the military out of our streets, at least in some parts and in some respect. Because if you have food security, if you have a response that shows your community that your community can take care of itself, they're not going to cry out for national and state level infrastructure. So be the reaction, be the solution, and stop them from causing more problems.
That was great, Andrew. Steve, do you want to react to that?
From the very first episode that I ever did of Slow News Day, I said that I wanted one of the aims of the show to be to get the people who were watching to go out and get their communities more sustainable and less reliant on local government. I've been hammering that from the moment that I got on the mic, and here we are with the perfect moment to do any number of things. We can get our fucking general strike practice in. The strike from home that a lot of people have advocated as the most nonviolent way to do a general strike, where you can't just be wiped out en masse in the middle of the street. We can do that now. Everybody's supposed to be at home. Withholding labor can be a giant bargaining step coming out of this. Nope, sorry, not going to work. Already home. Already got supplies. Already grew food. Already knew what to do. Yeah, you know. So that can happen. We can along with sharing a WikiLeaks playlist, we can circulate the teach-ins that we were going to do live, so we can help educate people more and more about Julian Assange. If you are a member of an activist group, please put us in touch with whoever your chapter head is, because we'd like to send those to the chapter heads so they can then be distributed throughout the membership list. I have always said that growing food is a revolutionary act, because you're a government that wants its citizens dependent on it and afraid of it wants to control the food supply. And when we've got food coming in from different countries that we can grow here, when we've got food rotting in the fields because it needs to meet a set amount of market price, we've got problems, especially when we have hungry people in this country. The city of Toronto, and I'll kind of come back after this, but several years ago, the city of Toronto tried a pilot program where they took decommissioned city buses and they turned them into mobile grocery stores, and they drove them in to food desert communities in order to get the people that live there fresh fruit and fresh vegetables. I tried to get a similar thing going here. Santa Cruz didn't bite, so we did it locally. We fed about 14 food insecure families just off the little food garden I had. It was pretty cool. In terms of what Andrew's saying, yeah, we've got up to 18 months now, they're saying that it could take to get a vaccine made and distributed to everybody. That's plenty of time to get to know your neighbors. That's plenty of time to figure out what skills you have that are beneficial to your community. Because look, man, if we're only getting a little bit of UBI, what do we do with that? We're going to have to survive on a lot more barter. We're going to have to trade labor for labor. We're going to have, I live in a small town. My good brother, who passed away a few years ago, had a saying about, if you want a long life in a small town, you've got to do right by your neighbors. Well, all of our towns are about to get real small, but our community is about to get way bigger. That's kind of how I want you to think about that.
And so from the very first episode, and like, I'm terrified, but from the very first episode, we have advocated for the idea of decentralized activism, for the idea of being the one person in your community willing to do this. And as we're entering, or as we're in this period of physical separation, there's no better time to go out yourself and act. There's no better time to go out and be the one person sit-in a lobby. There's no better time to go out and hang up posters and do banner drops and all of these other things that we've been discussing for so long here now, 37 weeks, I think. So I just hope, because we're probably about to transition into our news section, but as we kind of conclude this, that we've inspired some people, that there's at least someone amongst the 45 viewers plus Periscope viewers that we have now that are willing to use this fear that they are creating in us by distributing misinformation, by telling us almost nothing, by saying, nah, we're good, 2 weeks later saying, nah, this is going to July, by putting out a fake release, by getting leaked documents that say 48 hours and we're going to quarantine, and then saying, oh, no, that wasn't real. Because what that does is it allows the NSA to gauge the response of individuals and communities about the quarantine and allow them to transfer that information to the military to say, hey, here's the front line. So as whatever the fuck this is continues happening, be the person in your community to stand up and feel awkward and make a difference, because we have a time right now to save real lives, like to really save people's lives, not just have metaphorical conversations about political concepts, because The only concept that we will see is a boot to our fucking neck unless we can stop what they're trying to roll out right now.
That was very well said, as always, Andrew. And just to add to that as well, I want to make note too that this is a very real threat, the way that our governments are responding to this. It's completely disproportionate. And also, too, people are going to be more willing to accept a government mandated quarantine when they have already been feared into self isolating and to self quarantining. Once the government steps up and then intervenes, they're going to be less apprehensive to this and not really reject it. And in these times of extreme fear, and many people are fearful of this virus, they're more willing to accept very authoritarian measures on behalf of the government that they otherwise would absolutely oppose. And what I really worry about here is that looking ahead, we are going to what's going to become a thing is that we are living in a post-coronavirus world. And that is not to say that I don't want the coronavirus to go away. That's not what I mean, but that our world's going to be so fundamentally changed that that will actually become something like we have a post 9/11 world. I'm very fearful that we're heading in the direction of a post-coronavirus world, and taking what Andrew said and taking that very seriously and following his lead is an important way to ensure that it doesn't happen. So I think that we did get through quite a bit of news, unless there are some other things that we do want to touch on. We didn't have too much news going on. I know that we
real
did
quick,
speak about the prison. Go
real
ahead.
quick. There's this is a direct assault on your sense of community. It's a direct challenge to your sense of community, and they can take away sports, and they can take away bars, and they can take away your ability to gather with more than 5 people, but they can't take away your sense of community. Don't let them do that. Don't. Like, you're going to have to give up a lot of shit eventually, maybe, but you don't have to give that up.
And it's the superficial things that we're giving up. It's the things produced by slave labor currently
Fuck you,
that we're
Miss
giving up.
Lucky.
Like Amazon has converted to only delivering medical supplies as well as high demand products, right? That's an entire industry that was built on the exploitation of slaves in third world countries. Like, thank God Amazon has stopped shipping. Find a way to have your community make the things inside of it. Because I don't know if people know, China stopped buying our garbage a couple years ago. We started this trade war. They stopped purchasing our trash. This sounds really dumb, right? Like, why the fuck are we talking about garbage? Because it's now turning into a problem. And we have the ability, if we're trying to build a sustainable community, that we can set up municipal recycling programs that then distribute the recycled materials directly to worker-owned factories in your community that then distribute those in exchange for the food for those workers. And we can build this. We don't need them. They need us. And I think that's important to remember because they're about to realize it. That's what this talk about Trump's UBI is. They put $2.2 trillion into the repo banking market, and it's still collapsing. But they turned and they're like, how do we prop this up? Well, let's give everyone $1,000 a month. Let's blow trillions of more dollars into this fucked up broken system so we can try to continue it. So that way when Amazon comes back online, people can sign back up for Amazon Prime because they're getting $1,000 a month, and we can start drone deliveries for groceries and keep everyone inside of their houses. I don't know. I'll stop talking now because I'm just ranting at this point, but be the difference, be the change, be the person that puts yourself out there as this awkward leader that says like, hey man, like, can we try to save as many lives as we can right now? Talk to your local officials. All of them are answering their phones because they're not in their offices, and make a difference for your community. So that way, when they come down to it to respond with the military, the only reason that they would be there is to take the resources and the power that you have developed in that community and give your community something to defend. give them a reason to come together regardless of what party they're on or what sports team they love to watch on Sundays. Um, give your community a reason to be a community again. And if the 40 people that are watching right now are in different counties across the country, that's 40 counties that we can develop a food sustainability program because the infrastructure is there. There just has to be one person to make a call to get it all turned on and activated. I started on Monday, it's Wednesday. I'm probably going to see groundbreaking 2 weeks from now, turning soccer fields because of physical distancing that aren't being used into a place that the food for this community is going to grow. Be the change, be the difference. Courage is way more contagious than the coronavirus.